All right. So just before we actually start, just let me know one thing: whether I am audible properly and is my screen visible. Just confirm this so that we can proceed.
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah, just drop it in the message box that you're having. Just drop it over there so that I know. And most of the time we'll be chatting over there only. So the message box that you see over here, you can drop whatever you want, your doubts and all of that. I'll have a look here and I'll be answering all the questions if you have any. So just confirm once whether am I audible properly and you're able to see the screen. Cool. All right. So in that case, I think we all know that why we are here for. We are obviously here to learn JavaScript, and that's what we are going to do. Okay. Basically, this workshop is divided into three phases, or you can say this workshop consists of 3 weeks. In the first week, we'll dive into JavaScript. We'll learn right from the basics. We'll start right from the zero. So even if you don't have any knowledge of JavaScript, you are just newbie into it and you have zero knowledge. Do not worry, we'll start right from the very basics. We'll start right from how to write JavaScript and what is JavaScript, right to the advanced topics like asynchronous JavaScript and Ajax. Right? So we'll see all that. So in the first we'll look into basics of JavaScript and some intermediate topics. In the next week, that is second week, we'll be moving on to the projects. So in the first week, we'll mostly look into the theory part. Okay, different things into JavaScript like numbers, arrays, objects, loops, and all of that, and different other properties that are there in JavaScript. We'll be looking into it in the very first week. I know it can be a tiring process, and it can take a toll on you in the first week because you want to apply those things which you are learning, right? You would want to do that, but believe me, just be with me. It might get a boring sometime, but believe me, as we move forward, you'll realize that in the second week, when we are actually moving on to the projects part, you will see that okay, now I know why I waited so long, and now I can actually apply those things which I learned in first week. So we learn a few things in the first week, then we'll apply those things in the second week when we are actually working on the projects part. In the third week, although here it is written that we'll work on bonus lectures and all of that, just forget it. We'll be moving on to the advanced lectures like asynchronous JavaScript and Ajax. Obviously, we'll have doubt sessions for that as well. Okay, so what's the goal for this workshop? Basically, my goal is simple: to make you comfortable in JavaScript and apply that theory that which we are going to learn. And my end goal is always going to be so that you can build your own projects at the end of this workshop, and you do not need anything else after this workshop, at least in JavaScript. Obviously, I can't cover everything in JavaScript. There will always be one more thing that you can learn even after learning many things in JavaScript. Okay, so be comfortable with learning a few new things, but whatever the things that are used in the industry today, I'll teach you all of that in this particular 3 week workshop. Obviously, it will need a lot of practice. Now that will be on your part. Okay, apart from the projects that we make in this particular workshop. At the end of this workshop, you'll be able to pick your own framework. So if you want to work on React, if you want to work on Angular, if you want to work on Vue, it will be totally up to you. Or you can move on to backend as well, where you can learn Node.js, Express.js. That will be your pick, what you want to do. But after this workshop, I can comfortably say that you will be able to move on to a framework after learning JavaScript in this workshop. The recordings of every class you will get after a few hours. It will be a YouTube link. Remember, it's not a public link, it will be a private link. So the email ID with which you have registered for this particular workshop, only that will work for the access of the recordings. Okay, so make sure that on YouTube app or on your browser, you are logged in with that particular email ID into your YouTube app. Okay, only with that particular email you will be able to access the recording, and same thing goes for the classes from tomorrow onwards. From tomorrow onwards, you will be able to join the classes only with your registered email ID and not with anything else. Today you might have joined with some other email ID or something like that. You might have even shared it with your friend. That is completely fine. I have no issue with that on the first day. I try to take things lenient on the day one, but from day two things get much more stricter, and you'll have to comply with the rules. The rules are simple. Just don't mess with the piracy. Okay, so you'll be able to access the recording, and the recordings will be provided into your WhatsApp group only. Okay, I'll provide you a portal link which you can access, and where you will find all the recordings. You will find the complete code of the workshop. So suppose I teach you something today, and you will find its code over there on the portal. You will also find complete notes of JavaScript over there, handwritten, as well as my personal digital notes that I have created. You will find interview questions over there. Okay, and a few more things like cheat sheets and all of that, so that when you prepare for your interviews or something like that, you can prepare quickly for that. So you'll get all of that along with this workshop on that particular portal, completely free, no charges for that. Okay, it is just complimentary from my side, just because you have enrolled into this workshop. Just a sec, I think my charger is somewhere. Yeah, it's on. Cool. The classes will be from Monday to Friday. Okay. And just in case if we have something new to learn, or I feel that I can teach you something more, then we might have a class on Saturday. You are not obliged to join. You can watch the recording later on if you want, or you want to skip that particular topic. You can. It's your choice. Normally the classes will be from Monday to Friday, but if I feel that okay, I can teach you this also. Okay, I found some new thing on the internet, and I feel that okay, you should know this. Then I'll conduct one more class on maybe Saturday, and if you want, you can join that. Okay, the timing will remain 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Forget this shit. I don't know what this is. The timing will remain 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And at the end of this workshop, some bonus lectures will also be provided. So just so to update it with the upcoming trends. If there's some change in JavaScript or something like that, I'll provide some free changes or free bonus lectures so that you can look at it and you'll be comfortable with the new technology that is there in the market. Okay. Okay. How will you contact me, and how can I contact you? So it's pretty simple. I'll tell you this. First, I'll tell you how will I contact you. Okay. I will only contact you through your WhatsApp group or your community group. What is this community group? I'll share the link of the community group in your WhatsApp, in your current WhatsApp group. It is also another WhatsApp group where you can chat with other mates, right? So suppose just like you are a student over here of web dev army, there have been many more students, around 1500 to 1600 students, comprising of JavaScript as well as React.js. So there you can post your doubts, and somebody is always there to answer your doubt. Or you have some new resource to share, you can share that as well over there in the community group. Okay, but basically it is for asking your doubts. Okay, so mostly I'll be contacting you through this WhatsApp group, or if I send you an email, I'll send you an email with this particular ID. Other than this, I will never call you, I will never send you an email, I will never directly WhatsApp you, I will do nothing, I will never ask you for any kind of money. So even if someone does pretending to be me, you can just clearly do whatever you want to do with that. Okay. And how can you contact me? You can always contact me through my through this community group, and you can send me an email whenever you want to. Try not to message me directly on WhatsApp or call me. The thing is, I get many WhatsApp messages, so it gets lost over there sometimes. Okay, so try not to message me directly, but if you feel that something is very very urgent, it can't be fixed with community group, or I'm not responding to your emails, then you can message me for sure. No issue with that, and I'll try to answer you. Okay. The structure of the workshop. The structure of the workshop is going to be very very simple. We are going to start with a simple info, then we are going to move on to dev environment. So you will need a few things like I'll be using Chrome browser, and I'll be using VS Code. Okay, it's my code editor. If you want to use some other code editor, let's say if you want to use, just a sec, I think somebody is here. Okay, So let's say if you want to use Atom, right? It's also a code editor. It's also a good code editor. I have no issue with that. You can use whichever code editor you want to. But I would prefer you use a VS Code. It has some major functionalities that you would like. Okay. After that, once we are done with the theory in the first week, we'll be moving on to the projects. And don't understand this theory like I'll be teaching you definitions or I'll be reading you something. No, we'll be learning into we'll be looking into practical examples only, and we'll be looking into some very good things. And that will be my theory. It will almost be as if we are making a project only. Okay, and I'm a very fan of repetition, and that is why I'll keep on repeating a few things in this workshop during this workshop. Okay, intentionally. So it's not like that I have forgotten that we have already done this, but it's done intentionally so that as we repeat, we tend to learn it better. Okay, so that will be one thing. Also in VS Code, I'll be using three extensions. They are Prettier, Bracket Pair Colorizer, and Live Server. So if you want to install them to make your life much more better and easier, you can go ahead and you can install these. I'll show you how to do that. So let's say I have this folder. I'll create another folder inside this. Okay, and I'll go with Open with Code to use my VS Code. And if you don't have VS Code into your system, you can just go ahead over here and you can write VS Code install, hit enter, click on this download Visual Studio Code, and there you go. You have Windows option, Mac option, Ubuntu option, and Red Hat option. So whichever you use, you can go ahead and install that. Just agree to the terms that are given over there. They're safe completely. So you can just install this. This is completely free. Here we are. If you want to install those extensions, you can go over here and you can just search for it. So let's say I want to use Prettier. So I'll go over here and I'll write Prettier. Basically what Prettier does is it formats my code. So if it's not written in a well structured manner, if I'm using Prettier, it will do it on its own. So I have already installed it. I have been using it for a few years now. You can just go ahead and you can install it as well. This is the basic introduction of this workshop. So before we start, if you have any questions, if you have any doubts, you can drop it in the message box. I'll try to answer it as soon as possible. Yes, the timing is from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. No changes in that. Yeah. Okay, I think it was written 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., right? Okay. Okay. This was from my previous workshop. I forgot to make changes in this. Yeah, the timing will remain 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Don't worry. We're going to enjoy this class or all the classmates. Sure, Surya, we are going to enjoy that. Any other questions, guys? Any other doubt that you might be having or you want to ask about the workshop? If you have anything to ask, please do before we begin with our
Yes, I
first
have a
workshop.
question hello.
Uh-huh.
I have a question and I have asked in the message box.
What's your question? Okay, I think you're from here. You can get any laptop. Doesn't really matter. Yeah, you can use Sublime code editor as well. No issue. Okay, I'll share the PDF of presentation. Sure, I'll do that. Anything else? Any other doubt? Do you teach framework also? Yes, Sachit, I teach framework also. I teach React.js. Probably after this workshop, I'll start a new workshop of React.js as well. So yeah, I'll inform you guys about that. The duration of this workshop is 3 weeks. It starts today for next 3 weeks. You can message me, Barin, after this. On WhatsApp, you can leave me a message and I'll drop a link where you can register for the workshop. Okay. No, it's a separate course, Surya. Cool. So I think now we can begin that your doubts are clear. All right. Okay, we're done with this. Cool. So let's start with the basics. Let's try to understand what is JavaScript. So before we dive into JavaScript, I feel that you already have some idea about HTML and CSS, right? You don't want to look for the projects. I'm just looking for a particular image, and which is this. When you started with the web development, you must have started with HTML, right? So when you started writing HTML. So let's say I begin over here, I make a HTML file. Okay, I go ahead and create something over here, and now I'll make a heading one, and I'll say, hi, this is Rupam. Okay, I'll write this down over here. Now I'll start my live server. Okay, it is getting started. Let's wait for that. Here we go. I can see, hi, this is Rupam. Now, okay, so what it is like? It is just like a skeleton, right? So whatever I give it, it will show it on the screen. It has no functionality. It has no beauty. Nothing. I can just see, hi, this is Rupam over here. So suppose somebody sitting in the Google wanted to write this all over here. So he must have created, let's say, a heading or a paragraph or something like that. And he must have written it over here, maybe a span, and he must have written over here all. That's all he would have done. She would have done. Right? That's all he would have done. So if I create a paragraph over here, this is a para, and you'll see something like this. It has no beauty, it has no feature. It is just a line that you can see over here, which is written. Now if we apply some CSS to it, it will get its beauty. Right? I can give it some color, I can give it some background color or something like that. I can increase its font size, I can decrease the font size. I can give it more beauty. Whatever I want, I can just give it. But still, it will have no functionality of its own. Right? It doesn't have its brain. And that brain is JavaScript. So now if I have this gear icon over here, and if I click on this gear icon, it shows me a sidebar. How is this happening? This is happening with the help of JavaScript. And now if I click on this close button, it takes my navbar back to its original position. Now this is all happening with the help of JavaScript. It's the brain. Now it is having some functionality, right? So this is what JavaScript does. So basically, JavaScript is a scripting language used to create and control the dynamic website content. So whenever you want to make the website content dynamic, you use JavaScript. So if I click on this close button now, this will take it back. And if I click on this image, I'm getting this back. This is all happening because of JavaScript. Okay. So I hope now you have some idea about what is JavaScript and how JavaScript works and why is there a need of JavaScript. Almost all the websites, 99% of the websites that you see over the internet are made with the JavaScript, and that is why it is also known as the language of the web. Okay, and that is the reason why it's world's most popular language. Okay, I hope you have got some idea now what is JavaScript and how it is going to work. Cool. Any questions with that? Surya, Node.js and JS are different. Node.js basically is used for backend purposes and it is written with the help of JS. Okay, that's a separate question. Let's stick to the current scenario where we are. Otherwise, we'll just confuse others also. Okay. Yeah, similar code will be there because Node.js is basically JS only. The code that is written is JS only. Any questions, anyone? Cool. So, how do we write JavaScript then? Let's dive into that. Here we have our HTML page, and basically, there are three ways how you can do that. I'm again saying three ways. I'm not saying that there are three types of JavaScript. Okay, there are no types of JavaScript. There are only three ways how you can write JavaScript. First, being inline JavaScript. So I'll remove this and I'll start my first type, and that is inline JS. Now, most of the time, to reference JavaScript, I'll be calling it JS only. Okay, so whenever I say JS, that means I'm referring to JavaScript. I hope you get comfortable with that. I'll create a button, and here I'll say click me. Let's go back over here and let's have a look at this button. Now I'll click on this button. Nothing is happening. I'll click again, nothing. I can sit over here all night. I can keep clicking on it and nothing is going to happen. Why? Because it has no functionality. I have not given it any functionality. So what's the solution? Give it some functionality. Give it some JavaScript. Give it some JS. Let's do that. First way, the inline JS. How do we do that? So let's say if we have to give JavaScript to this particular button, I'll go inside the opening tag of that particular button, and here I'll write some JS. You do not need to understand what I'm writing, just understand where I'm writing. Okay. You do not need to understand what this onClick does or what is this alert and why I'm writing these parentheses. Nothing you have to understand. Don't worry. We'll learn this later on one by one. Okay. Currently, you just need to know where I am writing this particular line, and that is inside this opening tag button. Okay. So here I'm writing this onClick. So I'll save this, go back, and now if I click on this click me button, I'll get this alert which says hello people. Why? Because I have written it over here. So where do we write inline JS? Here. Got it? Any questions in this? Any questions, anyone? Cool. Now that you have understood how we write inline JS, let's try to understand how can we write internal JS. So that is the second way of writing JavaScript, and that is internal JS. Let's have a look. I'll create a random button, save this. Here we are, random button is over. Again, we can keep clicking on it and nothing is going to happen. So I'm going to come over here, and here I can go ahead and write this JavaScript again, but that would be inline JS. Instead, I'm going to write internal JS. And how do we do that? In order to write internal JS, we have to create a script tag over here, a opening tag and a closing tag. Okay, so an opening tag and a closing tag for that. And inside this, I can go ahead and write my JavaScript. The only thing that I need to do is, just like if you remember while writing internal CSS, we used to give some class or some ID to our particular element, right? That's what we are going to do over here also. So I'll give this class of btn. I'll save this. I'll come over here inside my script tag and I'll write some JavaScript. Again, you do not need to know what I'm writing over here. Okay, you do not need to understand this. We learn this one by one separately later on. Okay, don't scratch your head over it, that what I'm writing, what are these things. Okay, so I have written some JavaScript over here. Again, I'm saying that you do not need to worry what I have written over here. You do not need to scratch your head over that what is this query selector all, what is this for each, what is this item, and what is this. You do not need to worry about anything right now. Okay, as we proceed, you will learn everything. Okay, one by one. Right now, just focus on how we are writing internal JavaScript. In order to write internal JavaScript, we first pass some class or ID inside a particular element that we want to target. Then we make a script tag inside our body tag only, and in that script tag, whatever JavaScript that we do want to write, we write it over here. Got it? Any doubts? So if we click on random button now, this will give me this is awesome. And this is how you write internal JavaScript. Now, question may arise in your mind, if there was inline.js where I could just simply write this, then why do I need internal JavaScript and make a separate tag for it and make something like this? Why? What is the need? I'll tell you what is that. The need is if I want to make another button, okay, or another element with the same JavaScript, then in that particular element also I'll have to use the same JavaScript. Right? So if I want to create another button with the same JavaScript, I'll have to create it something like this. But if I'm making an internal JavaScript, in that case, I do not need to write this JavaScript again and again. I can just simply give that particular button, that particular class, and that JavaScript will be applied on its own to all the buttons that I have selected over. So let's say this button has a random button class of btn. This also is having random button class of btn. So if I go over here, click on this button, this is awesome. Or if I click on this button, this is awesome. Okay. And this is why we use internal JS over inline JS. Any questions? Any doubt? Anything if you want to ask, please do. You can just drop it in the message box. I'll have a look and I'll answer it right away.
Yes, Rupam, you used add event listener, right? This method.
Mm-hmm.
So can you explain the line number 22, 20
No, as I
second?
said, I won't be explaining these right now. You don't need to understand these lines right now. Okay? We learn all these things one by one later on. We are at the very basic level right now. We are just trying to understand right now how do we write JavaScript. Okay?
Okay, Rupam.
Yeah. What if I want to use same class? I think someone's mic is on. Okay, what if I want to use same class with a different alert value? In that case, you'll have to make a different class over here. You can't do that. Okay, that you have to give same class also, and then you have to use the same alert also. Basically, what you can do is you can pass on some conditions inside your JavaScript. We learn that also how to pass conditions. So if I pass some conditions over there, then it will filter out that okay, these are the elements that I do want to provide some JavaScript, and these are the elements that I do not want to provide any JavaScript. Okay, so we learn that also how to put conditions over in JavaScript. Currently, I just want you to understand where I am writing, just the ways to write. If it is inline JS, then I have to write it inside over here. And if it's internal JS, in that case, I'll have to either create a class or a button, a class or a ID, and then create a script tag. And inside that, I'll write my JavaScript which I want to. It's as simple as that. Okay, let me check how is like. Okay, I'm not answering that. As I said, strict remain to the topic right now. Okay, If you ask questions from here and there, then we'll just be very apart from our topic and we'll mess up with everyone, not just ourselves. Stick to what we are learning right now. Okay. Not only if you just start asking something else, not only it confuses you, but the whole batch who is studying with you. Cool. Let's see the third way and the most popular way and the way that I am going to use throughout the workshop, and that is external JS. Let's create a button and let's give it a random button again. Let's pass on some class to this. Let's give it btn class. So the same button that I've created, I can go ahead and click on it. Nothing is going to happen because of the same reason, because I have not given it any functionality. It doesn't contain any JavaScript. Now the third way is to create an external JS. What do I mean by external JS? Basically creating a separate file for JavaScript. So whatever the JavaScript that I want to write, I will write over here. I'll copy this thing so that I don't have to write. I'll paste it over here. I'll save this. And if you see, it was something like this. As soon as I saved, it got formatted a bit better and it looks much better now. And this is because of the prettier extension that I told you earlier. Okay. So here we go. We have our JavaScript. So that means this should work now. I have my HTML, I have my JavaScript, and I have been applying my JavaScript onto this button. So this should work, right? Let's see. It doesn't. Why it doesn't work? Because we have not connected HTML and CSS, HTML and JavaScript pages or files, whatever you want to call it. So how would this HTML know that this is the JavaScript file that we have to take? So in that case, I'll go over here, I'll say script, I'll select this, I'll go over here, I'll select this particular file, and that's it. Now we have connected app.js to our app.html. Okay, so you just have to use script tag, and under src attribute you have to pass app.js. As soon as you do this, now if you see, the functionality is up. Can someone tell me what is the benefit of this external JS? I was already able to use internal JS if I wanted to use multiple buttons by just passing the class. So what is the use of this external JS then? How will this come in handy? Can anyone explain this to me? Just think over it, give it a try. You know no one over here. You need not to be ashamed of, even if you say something wrong.
All the JS code will be written in one place.
Yeah, that is one thing. But here also I was writing script tag at the end of my body tag now. So they were already separate, at least kind of separate. Anything else?
Changes can be made easily.
Huh?
Changes can be made easily.
What can be made easily? Changes.
Yes.
Yeah, that is again with the same thing. Like script, like all the JavaScript can be written separately. But already I'm writing script tag at the end of my body tag now.
While building any big website like that, the code will be heavy. At that time, we may get confused because of writing in
Okay,
inline
it's
or
again same
external.
thing that making changes in the code will be easy, right? And JavaScript will be at one place, right? Or making changes, the website is getting heavy, code is getting heavy. They are all the same thing.
Okay.
But that's not the main reason. That is one of the reason, but that's not the main reason. The main reason is I can use this app.js if I write this separately in multiple HTML files. So let's say if I create a app2.html over here, I'll write some HTML, I'll come over here, I'll create a button, okay, I'll go ahead and give it some class of btn, and I'll write random button html2. Okay, let's start our open with live server. Okay, I have this button, nothing is going to happen right now. Let's connect this JavaScript file. Now look, I do not need to write a separate JavaScript file for this particular HTML. If it were the case of internal JavaScript, I would be writing this script tag inside this app2.html also, right? But right now I can just create this script tag and I can just connect this particular JavaScript file to over here with the single line. I will be able to replicate all the code that is written inside this JavaScript file and use it for this particular HTML page. Is this clear? So that is the main reason why we are going to use external JS, and that is why throughout this workshop I am also going to use external JavaScript only, so that I don't have to reference to this HTML page again and again, and I can use it on as many pages as I want. Is this clear? Yeah, if it is required, then you can use. Okay, you were having some own discussion. Carry on. Is this clear, guys? Just let me know if it is clear or not. Okay, it's clear to Anis and Sanchit. What about others? Just write yes in the message box if you have understood, so that I know that okay, I'm teaching correctly to you. Cool. Let's start with more basics now. Let's move further. Code readability writing at and because it's slower than HTML and CSS. Okay, so I think we have discussed this now. But it's not the main reason. Cool. Let's move forward. Okay, so now what I'll be doing is I'll be removing all of this because I don't need this, and instead of this I'll just directly move into app.js, remove all of this. So now I feel you're comfortable how to write JavaScript, at least how to write inline JS. Basically not how to write, where to write. Okay, so how to write inline JS, internal JS, and external JS. So you know that. Now let's move further and look into real JavaScript. Throughout this workshop, I'll be using a few things. I'll be using this alert pop-up. So in this alert pop-up, you just write alert, you start your parenthesis, and within quotes, you write whatever you want to show. So let's say I want to show Rupam. So I'll write this. If I go back, you can see this alert pop-up over here, which shows you Rupam. Okay. I'll be using one more thing, which is document.write. And document.write is used when I want to write something over my screen. So have a look over here. I can see this Rupam over here. Similarly, mostly I'll be using this third thing, which is console.log, and inside parenthesis, now whatever I'll pass, it will be shown in my console. Now this you have to remember very well. Okay, because we'll be using this very much for the testing purposes. Throughout the workshop, we'll be using this, And if you do come into the career of JavaScript, you will be using this for your whole career. Okay, so console.log and then whatever you want to pass. And where do we find this? We'll find it when I right click on the screen, then I click on this bottommost option, which is inspect. I'll click on it, then I'll click on this console, and you can see Rupam written right over there. You can even see the line number, app.js, third line. Third line. There you go. Okay. So mostly we'll be using this third option. But other options are also available that are available. Alright, so I'll remove this random button. Instead of this, I'll give a h1. I'll say JavaScript workshop. Save, go over here, remove all of this. Save. I have nothing in my JavaScript. I'll refresh and I can see JavaScript workshop right now. Let's start with the very basics and the most basic building blocks of JavaScript. Let's try to understand those. And those are variables. Variables are basically most basic building blocks of any programming language, be it JavaScript or any other. So I'll write over here most basic building block. It's like making a building, right? You make a building, but before that you make rooms, you make apartments. In apartments also you make rooms. In rooms you make walls. For walls also you make it with small blocks, right? And that is what variables are. If I want to write a grandiose form of JavaScript code, then I would write it with the help of variables. What are they used for? They are used for storage purposes, to access something, or to modify a certain value. We use variables. Don't worry, I'll explain everything. How do we do that and what is the purpose? Don't worry about that. Normally, if I have to show something for the testing purpose or something on the screen, I'll just use console.log and I'll write over here. Let's say I'll write John Shrimp Taco 6. If I have to show this, okay, let's say this is the name of certain king. Okay, let's say this is the name of a certain king. So I'll use console.log John Shrimp Taco 6 and you can see it over here in the console. So I'm fine with that. Cool. Now I go ahead and write some code. Whatever the code that I wanted to write, I just go ahead and write that. I'm making these comments, okay? These are the comments that you can make which are not included in your code, and you can write your comments with the help of 2 forward slashes. Okay. Now I go ahead and write some code and let's say I want to write the king's name again. So what do? I create a console.log and I write that John Shrimp Taco 6. Okay, I write some more code. Since it was a very long code, I go ahead and write some more code. Okay, and I'll go ahead and say console.log. Now I need to write that king's name again. My boss loves this particular king, so I'll just have to write this king's name again, John Shrimp Taco 6. Now I also need to write some more code, but my boss says that you need to write the king's name again as it's needed for the client's purpose. So I'll just go ahead and write it again. Now it's getting tiring, right? I have to write the king's name again and again and again and again. So instead of this, what I can do is I can create a variable, store the king's name in that particular variable, and instead of writing the whole king's name, I can just use that variable. And how do we do that? Let's see. So I'll use let keyword for that. I will use let keyword to create a variable. So let's say I'll use this let, and I'll say I want to create a king variable. You can name anything, whatever you want to name a variable, you can name that. I'm naming my variable as king. So I'll say let king equals to John shrimp taco 6. Now my work is done. If I want to write John shrimp taco 6, I can just write console.log king and have a look. I'll get this. I want to use it again after writing some code. Come on. I want to use it again. So what I'll do, I'll just say console.log king. That's it. That's all I have to do. John shrimp taco 6. That's all I need to do. If I want to use it again, let's do the same thing again. There you go. And let's say in the earlier situation, if I had to make changes, let's say I forgot the king's name, I wrote it wrong. It wasn't supposed to be John Shrimp Taco 6, it was supposed to be John Shrimp Taco 5. Then what would I have to do? I would have to make the changes in each and every line. I will have to go over here, remove this I, remove this I, remove this I, remove this I. But over here in this situation, what I can do is I can just go ahead and make the changes in my variable. I can just make this John Shrimp Taco 5 and you'll see the changes appearing right here. Just one change, and even if I have written it 100 times, it wouldn't matter, it would change in all of that. If I make it 4, you'll see the changes right away. Look. Got it? It's as simple as this. You can use the variable as many times as you want. Any questions in this? Any doubt? Anything that you want to ask? Just go ahead and ask.
Sir, if suppose the console will be written before let, what will be the output?
Then you can't use it. You will
If
get the
console
error.
is
Cannot access king before initialization. So it tells you that you can't use king variable before initializing it. So at least initialize that first. Okay, your variable, then you can use it. Got it?
Sir, what if we use var variable with
Yeah,
the
we'll learn about
name
var
of...
and const. Don't worry, I'll come to that. We learn everything.
Okay,
Just
sir.
stick to the topic right now. Whatever we are learning, just learn that for the moment. And as we learn a new thing, you can ask and doubt then. Okay, of that particular thing. Just be in the moment. I'll cover everything. I won't leave anything. Don't worry. You wouldn't have any questions after the workshop ends. Anyone else? Any other question?
How can we know the data type of a variable?
We can use type of for that. Now you don't know what is type of, right? So let's wait for that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm guessing no doubts over here. Let's take one more example of variables so that just so that we have a good idea about variables. So I'll make 3 variables over here. Let address, okay, let zip, and let state. Now one more thing, it's not like that you have to create all the variables separately, or you have to give the value right then and then, just like we did in king. So here we created a king variable and we gave it some value right then and there, right? But it's not necessary. If I want, I can just keep the create the variables, and then later on I can pass some value inside it. Let's say I'll give a 221b Baker's Street. Okay, so if I do this, that will also be fine, and I can just console.log address 221B Baker's Street. I can see. Okay, one more thing, it's not like that you have to create all the variables separately. No, not at all. If you want, you can just go ahead and create it something like this as well. So let address comma zip comma state, you can do this as well, and that's completely fine, no issue. I can give some value to zip as well. Let's say 60612, and I can give it a state of, let's say, London. Since it is a London address, so I'll do this. Now similarly, if I want to print zip in my console, I'll go ahead and say console.log zip, and there you go. And same thing about state as well. There you go. And just in case if I want to print address and zip together, I can do that as well. I'll just need to write a comma, and there you go. You have 221B Baker Street 60612. So this was your address and this was your pin. And if I want state as well, so I'll write comma state, and there you go. You have London as well. Okay. So this is how you can use variables. You can create variables, then give it some value, then use it, use them separately, use them together, whichever way you like. I hope you have got this. If you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. Basics need to be cleared very well. Okay, else you might face some issues later on. So better clear our basics right now. I'm here. Don't worry. You can ask as stupid a doubt as you can, and I'll answer you as calmly as I can. Okay.
Can we rewrite address or zip any of these after a few lines?
Yeah, we can. You can use a variable as many times as you want.
I mean, can we change
change the
the address
value.
like that?
You want to change the value of this.
Okay, not like that.
Mhm.
I need this address for the first time, and
Okay.
for the third time, I need different address like that.
So you want to change the address now. That's what you are saying. So let's say here it is 221B. So maybe you want 221A. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. I'll tell you about when I'm discussing about let const and var. I'll tell you that. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Just wait for maybe 10 more minutes and I'll come to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once variable is declared, and if we won't assign any value to that variable, if we print it in console, what value will get printed?
If you have not created the variable, are you saying that? Hello?
We have declared a variable, but its value is not assigned.
Yeah, look, for these questions you can just try on your own. So let's say what you in that case what you can do is you can just go ahead and create a, let's say, a question variable. Okay, let question.
Okay.
And I'll just go ahead and say, and you can see that it is giving me undefined. Okay, so these are the few things that
Okay.
you should try on your own,
Yeah, okay.
right? Just so that you
Yeah,
have
okay.
more practice, you will see that okay, this isn't working. Now what if I give it some value? What if I remove that value? What if I change that value? These are few things that you can try on your own. I do not need to be there for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you do not need a mentor for that. You can do that on your own. For sure, I have no issue with that. Okay, so now we know that how to declare a variable, how to give it some value, and how to use that value. We'll see much better uses of this not just printing it in our console. Obviously, we'll see much better uses of this. But for now, let's remove this and let's see some rules of naming a variable. So currently we have just named this simply like address, zip, state. Can I name it something more? Can I use my creativity over this? Can I do that? Let's try to find out. So basically there are some rules for naming the variable. Okay, and what are those rules? Let's see. So basically whatever your variable name is, it can contain digits, letters, underscore, and by underscore I mean this particular sign. Okay, and it can also contain a dollar sign. So your variable can contain all these four things. It can contain digits, letters, underscore, and a dollar sign. But, and this is a major but. It must start with letter, a dollar sign, or an underscore. Okay, so it can contain digits, letters, underscore, and a dollar sign, but it must start with a letter, dollar sign, or underscore. It can never start with a digit. It can contain digit, but it cannot start with a digit. Okay, it cannot contain any keyword. What is a keyword? Keywords are some special words that are reserved in any programming language. And similarly, in JavaScript also, there are some keywords that you can't use to name your variable. So just like we saw this let, you can't use let to create another variable. Okay, it will just throw error. And obviously, your variables are case sensitive. What is case sensitive? So if I'm writing Rupam versus Rupam, they are completely different. Why? Because in this R is present in lowercase and in this R is present in uppercase. So these both are completely different things. So if I create a variable with the name of Rupam where my R is in the lowercase, then I can't use uppercase Rupam and expect the same results as we are getting with this. Okay, they are two completely different things. Yeah, these are the four rules that you have to remember. I'll show you some examples. So let's say I'll create a variable. I'll say random123. I'll use underscore and a dollar sign, and here I'll say some random value. I'll save this. I'll go ahead. I'll say console.log random123 dash dollar. I can use this. You can see it over here in the console as well. But if I try to start it with a digit, which I have said that you can't start, so if I start it with a digit, some value, and if I try to access it, although I am not able to, but still, then it will show me error, uncaught syntax error, invalid or unexpected token at line number 11 of app.js, line number 11. So you can't create this particular value. Similarly, you can't use a keyword. So if I want to use a keyword, so I'll use let equals to variable, or you can go ahead with some value just so that it doesn't confuse you. Oh, dude. Okay, so if I save this, it will throw me error. Let is disallowed as a lexically bound name. So basically, it is saying that, dude, you're using a keyword which you can't use. Okay. Similarly, if I create another variable, let's say I create last name variable, and I'll say Gupta over here, as my name is Rupam Gupta, so I'll use Gupta over here, and I'll say last name. Okay, so I can use this. I'll see this value Gupta, but if I try to make this n as uppercase, then you will see an error and it will say last name is not defined. Why? Because my last name and this last name is completely different. Why? Because here I am using lowercase n and here I am using uppercase n. Okay, and this is what the difference is. I hope this is very clear, and I hope your doubts about naming a variable are very clear. Again, if you have any questions, you can ask. Just drop it in the message box or unmute yourself and ask a question. If you have any questions, I'm here. You can go ahead and unmute yourself or drop it in the message box. Cool.
Yes, Rupa.
Yeah.
Will you explain the debugging tools in this section?
Sorry, Adi?
Will you explain the debugging tools like developer tools in this
We'll see
section?
that
Like
later on. Let's first try to understand the
yeah,
basics. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Most of the debugging things I teach while teaching React.js, because that's when it gets most important. But yeah, I'll try to include that in the JavaScript as well.
okay.
Excuse me. All right. Let's see if we have any doubts. Okay, no. Let's move further and let's see something very interesting and very important, and that is let versus const versus var. Now you might be wondering what is this? This guy haven't even told us what is const and var, and is already telling the difference between them. So let me tell you, you already know what is let, const, and var. As soon as I told you about let, that it is used to create a variable, you came to know about const and var also, because that's what they are used for. Just as you were using let to create a variable, const and var are also used to create a variable. But there is a very subtle difference between all these three. And let's try to understand that. First, try to see if I use a var. So using var, if I make a variable var value equals to some value, okay, and I'll just console.log this value. Very simple. Let's see. Here, some value. I can see it, so it works just as a let, right? No. Currently, it's working just like your let would. Let's use let over here. Let's try to make another example. So I'll use value 2 and I'll say some let value. Okay, just so that we can see the difference in even in a console. Value, okay. Value 2, there we go, and I can see some let value, and same thing we would do for const as well. Using const value 3 equals to some const value. Console.log value 3. Save and there. Cool. Right. Let's go back to var. Now let's try to change this value. So our value variable is having some value. Let's try to change this. So I'll go ahead and I'll say value equals to some other value. Will it be changed? Can I do this with the help of var? Let's check. Some value, then we change this to some other value, then we print it again. So I can see it in my console that it is showing me some other value. So that means, yeah, we can use that, right? So what's the issue? Okay, let's try to do one more thing. let's try to define this again. Okay, so I'll make where value equals to some other value. Okay, and let's try to save this now. Here we go, console.log value. That's okay. Yeah, some other value. So that means that we can change the value, right? And we can define it again as well when we're using where. Okay, so we can define it again and we can declare it again. So we can do both the things again. So once I have declared it, but I can declare it again as well. So let's say I'm creating a very big file of JavaScript and I forgot somewhere that whether I have created this variable or not. But if I'm using where, I can declare that again also. Are you getting me? But when I move to let, I can change the value for sure. So let's say I'll say some other let value. Okay, I'll console.log this value too. Now here look, some other let value. So that means that I can change this value for sure. But if I now try to define this again, have a look. With the help of this let some other let value, although it is already showing you a red line, but I'll still write that code. Value 2, it will show you identifier value 2 has already been declared, and that is what is the difference between where and let. That although in where and let you can change the values, but you can't declare let, whereas you can declare where again. So once you have created a let variable, you can't create it again. But in where you can do that. I hope this is clear. It's very simple, but it is very necessary to understand it. Yes, Vishal? Vishal, you want to ask something? Cool. So now we have understood that how does where and how does let work. So what about const? Now const has a very different approach. In let, at least I was able to change the value. But with const, as the name suggests, it is constant. So you can't change the value also. So if I go ahead and if I try to make some changes in this value 3, let's say abracadabra, and if I try to console.log this value 3, have a look. Assignment to constant variable. We are getting an error in the line 26. This I just can't do that. It's a constant value and I can't make any changes in that. So in where I can make changes as well as I can define it again or declare it again. In let I can make changes but I can't declare it again. In const, neither you can define it again nor you can declare it again. It's as simple as that. I hope this is very clear. Again, if you have any doubts, surely you can ask. Can we do a where value to and try it, Tarun? Try it. Try it on your own. Okay? I don't think you need me for that. You can go ahead and type it in your code editor and you can try that. Right? You'll see if you are getting error or not. Then try something else. Once you have created with let, try it where. Then try it in const also. So do those experiments. See what are the results that you're getting. You just need me to understand what is let, what is where, and what is const. Now, what are the khichdi pulao you have to make? Just go ahead and make that. No one is stopping you, but you have to do that. Like If you do that on your own, it will be much better. Okay, because if I do that, you're not going to learn anything new from my end. It is something that you might have also done. You don't need me for that. Be a bit greedy and selfish. While learning, everyone should be greedy and selfish. Any doubts? Any questions? If you have anything to ask, please do. Okay, so I'm guessing there are no doubts and there are no questions. So I'll remove this.
At the
Now,
end of each line,
uh-huh.
do we need to use this semicolon?
Semicolon. Okay. So JavaScript is a very forgiving language. So even if you don't write semicolon, it wouldn't matter. But the thing is, since I'm using prettier extension, so even if I remove it and as soon as I save it, it gives me this semicolon. So if I remove this semicolon, this, and you will look as soon as I save it, they will all have semicolon. Okay. But JavaScript is very
Oh,
forgiving. So even if you don't write a semicolon, it will work.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Cool. I'm guessing there are no doubts. So let's move further. Clear. Cool, Surya. Surya is one of the last students who have registered for the workshop and he is the most active one. Great to see that. Okay, let's remove this and let's learn something new. You might have seen me using these quotes, right? And sometimes I was using these single quotes. Mhm. There you go. So it doesn't really matter whether you use single quotes or double quotes while making a string. Okay, but if you want to use them for some specific purposes, then it can be done something like this. So if I use const single quote John, okay, const first name equals to single quote John, or const last name equals to double quote Peter. So while creating a variable, it doesn't really matter whether I'm using a single quote or whether I'm using a double quote. Okay, it wouldn't matter. So if I just go ahead and console.log first name and last name, they would give their respective result irrespective of whether I have used single quotes or double quotes. Okay, so I can use either of them. Now the problem being, if I just save this file, since I'm using prettier extension, it will give double quotes to both of them and it will show this result. But believe me, if you even if you don't have that extension and you use single quotes, it will give you the same result as this. So now what is the use? Will I ever use this single quotes and double quotes? Yes, you will use them, and you can use them something like this. So I'll go with const sentence is equals to, I'll use double quote and I'll say Rupam's workshops are best. Okay, truth only, right? So not sentence, but sentence. I'll save this. You can see Rupam's workshops are best, and I've used double quotes, and in that I have used a single quote. What if I want to use double quote inside double quotes? Can I use that? So yeah, you can use that, but you will have to use forward slash for that. Something like this. Um, Not forward slash, but backward slash. What I mean?
Sir, I guess that is backward slash.
Yeah, backward slash. So you can use it something like this. Okay, and it will show you the result. Now again, the problem being, as soon as I save this, it will change it according to its own condition because I'm using that particular extension, but this will work. Okay, and you will get the result something like this. And same is the case when you use a single quote. So if I am covering the whole quote or whole string with a single quote, then you can see when I had to use the single quote, I use a backward slash. Okay, if I don't use this, then it will end my string right over here. Then it will only consider this rupam as the string, and other than that, it will all be an error, which I clearly don't want. Right? Any questions in this? If you have any confusion, do ask. Cool. So I think this is all clear. Now, until now, we have seen how we were making a string, right? If you don't know what a string is, whatever the variables that we are creating inside those quotes. So let's say I was creating a first name and I was saying, let's say I'll say Rupam over here. So this is a string that you have created. So this first name variable, and in that first name variable, you have stored a string because you have used these quotes, and inside that quote, you are having Rupam. So if I use console.log first name, we were able to see that over here. Now if I start another one, if I make last name as well, and I'll write Gupta over here. Okay, I can see Rupam over here, and I can use console.log last name, and there you go, Gupta. Now if I want to see them both together, one way being I can just go ahead and write first name comma last name, and I can see them in the same line. The second way is using string concatenation. Now what's that? It's basically, as the name suggests, string concatenation, that is combining strings. String concatenation, combining strings. Okay, let's see how we can do that. Combining strings or string values. So let's say I want to create a sentence. Okay, I'll just directly console.log only. I'll not create a separate variable for that. So what I'll do is I'll say, hello there, my full name is, now I want to show my first name. So how do I do that? Either I can just go ahead and write first name in the next line, or what I can do is I can write a plus sign right after this string over here, and it will show me, hello there, my full name is Rupam, and since I want to use my last name as well, so I'll write another plus sign and I'll write plus last name variable, and there you go. Since it is showing me both of these things together, Rupam and Gupta, so what I'll do is I'll create an empty string, something like this. So hello there, my full name is first name, that is Rupam. Then I gave it some gap. I created a new string. Okay, and it was just having a space in it. Then I gave it a plus again because I wanted to add something more to it, and I gave it my last name as well, so I can see this Gupta right over here. So this is how you combine two or more strings. So even if I want to create a separate variable, so let's say I want to create a full name variable. So what I can do is I can just go ahead and write name plus, not name, I have not even created that variable, first name plus empty string to get that gap, and last name. So now if I try to print this full name, you will see Rupam, that gap and Gupta. So now if I want to use it in a certain sentence, I can just go ahead and do that. I'll say, hello there, my full name is the sign, full name, there you go, I can see this. Hello there, my full name is Rupam Gupta. Okay, so if I want to create some website based on the same concept, I can just go ahead and do something like this. I'll go write Google over here. I'll go into the next line and I'll create a URL. Since I do not want any caps, so I'm not using the empty strings. www.google.com. There you go. Let's save this and let's console.log URL. What do you think we are going to get? We are going to get this https www.google. It is coming from here, then .com. Let's see, and there you go. Right? So now, if I want to get another website, I do not need to make many changes. I just go here and I'll make changes. So I'll make to Yahoo, and there you go. You will get Yahoo. Okay, no wonder Yahoo is so slow. If I want to use Facebook, I can use that as well. Okay, cool. Okay, later on we'll have some more functionalities, and based on this, if you have to create an app, you can go ahead and create it. Depending on where user want to go, you can just redirect them directly to a website, right? So yeah, this is how you use a string concatenation and you combine two strings. Any doubts, any questions in this? If you have any, please do ask. I'll be happy to answer that. Any questions? Arun, any doubt?
So if we use string concatenation or numbers means.
Oh, numbers, yeah, go ahead and write a number. Yeah, no issue. Look, here we go. Here we have 23. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
The next topic is numbers only. Currently, we have only seen strings. Now we are going to move towards numbers. Okay.
Sir,
So
I have a question.
yeah, go ahead.
Mm. Sir, are there any further types of data types in JavaScript like
Yeah,
we
we
have
will.
primitive data types?
Yes, we have. We'll see them. Don't worry.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So while string concatenation, string changes number to, I mean integer to string, right?
No, string concatenation basically is used to combine two things. So whether it's a
Okay.
string or a number, it will just combine them.
Where
It's not converting
concatenation
anything.
means just combines the thing.
Yeah, it is just
Okay.
used to combine two strings. Okay,
Okay.
so whether it's a variable, whether it's a separate string, whatever is there, we're just combining them.
Okay.
We're not converting anything to anything.
Okay.
Okay, enough with the strings. Now let's move towards numbers. Okay, let's try to understand these little things. again, JavaScript is very loosely typed language. Okay, it's very forgiving language. Just like you don't have to write those semicolons at the end. Similarly, over here, you don't have to declare the type. Okay, so let's say I'm making a number over here. I don't have to declare a type over here. Earlier I was making a string, but I was not declaring anything that I am making a string right now. I can just make a string. Similarly, I can just make a number. I do not need to declare it that I am going to make a number now. I do not need to do that. If I want to create a number, I'll just make a variable, whatever the name that I want to give, and I'll just make a number. That's all. That's all I have to do. Just make sure that you're not writing it inside quotes. Because if you write it inside quotes, then it's a string. Okay? Now it's a number. So you don't have to declare the type, but make sure of that quotes thing. So I'll write console.log number and I'll see the number over here. You can also see a subtle difference that this is blue in color and the string is always black in color. So if I make one more thing, let's say number 2, if I write it inside quotes, if I do this, you can see they are different in colors, right? That's what we have to make sure. There you go. I'll remove this for now, just to show you as an example. You can name whatever you want to name your variable. So let pends equals to 2.466. I can use this also. No issue. And it's a number as well. Whether it's in decimal or not. Doesn't really matter. Okay. Now I have told you that if we write it inside quotes, then it becomes a string. So if I make a number 3, or so that I can leave it over here, 2.456 console.log number 3. I'll save this. Number 3. Yeah, so this is a string. Okay. Now you can perform simple operations on your number. So let's say I create a number 2 as well. And I'll give this some value of, say, 20. Okay, I created this. So I have number equals to 34, number 2 equals to 20. So I can just add them. I'll create a add variable and I'll say const add equals to number plus number 2. There you go. And now I can just go ahead and write const add and you will see the result over here. 34 plus 20 is 54. I can see that. Similarly, if I want to use, it's a subtraction, I can use that as well. So number minus number 2 sub. There you go. Here we are. Similarly, if I do want to use multiplication, I can do that as well. Let's skip this mult. And then the next one I'll go with console.log. Save 680. Okay. Now similarly you can use division also. So if I use const div equals to number divided by number 2, or I'll take a simple example, 25 divided by 5, console.log div, save, I can see 5 as these. So it's as simple as that. Okay, so you can perform these simple mathematical operations if you want. I'm hoping this is clear. Any doubts in this? Anything at all that you might want to ask? Cool. Let's move further and let's have a look at something
Sir, is
else.
there any float values like in other languages or
No,
in
no, no. You
this?
don't have to declare any float or anything. I said you don't have to declare a type. They just
Okay,
fall into the numbers only. Okay.
okay,
Your points values that you are talking about, they just fall into your numbers data type only. You don't have anything float or something like that.
okay.
Okay.
Sir, what if we need to give like in 3.14 like that
Use it.
in
Use it.
okay,
Use it simply with the help of variable. Here we are using it now. That's 2.466.
okay,
This is also a decimal value, no? We are using it. No issue, just go ahead and use it. You don't have to declare anything. This is JavaScript. Just do
okay.
directly whatever you want to. Okay, let's try to understand some very popular properties of numbers and some very important things. So in this we are going to see increment operators, decrement operators, and before we move on to increment decrement operator, we are going to see something, some special signs that are plus equals, minus equals, star equals, or asterisk equals, okay, division equals, and there is something called modular operator, modulus sign. Basically, okay, I'll tell you that later on. Let's create a number first. Okay, let's create a number. So let num equals to 40. Okay, so if I console.log this num, I can see 40 in my console. Okay, here it is. Now, what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and write something like this: num equals to num plus 5. So this will increase my variable by 5, right? Because I've written num equals to what? Num plus 5. So whatever the value was, 40 plus 5. So what will this do? Console.log num. This will increase my value by 5 and I will have 45 in my console. So if I want to use, if I were to use it again, it will increase it again by 5 and I would see 50. The shortcut of this being num plus equals to 5. So instead of writing num equals to num plus 5, if I use num plus equals to 5, then it will increase my num value by 5. So 40, 45, 50, and as I use this, it becomes 55. Got it? Just like you have num plus equals to 5
Sir,
to
this part I
increase.
don't understand. Sir, please explain again.
Okay. So basically, if I want, let's say I have a variable num equals to 40. Okay. And I want to increase it by 5. So what I would do, I would just write num equals to num plus 5. And this would increase my num variable by 5. So if I write console.log num, this would make it 45. Do you understand this part?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now the shortcut of this is I can just go ahead and write num plus equals to 5, and this would also do the same thing as this was doing. So consider this as the shortcut for this line. Look over here. This also increased it by 5 and this also increased it by 5. And it's not necessary that you have to use 5 only. You can use whatever you want to use. So let's say if I have to increase it by 3, I can just write num plus equals to 3 and it will make it 53. Got it? And just like we have plus equals to sign to increase it, we have negative equals to sign to decrease it. So if I use num equals to num minus 5, and now if I look at console.log num, my num value would have been decreased. So earlier it was 53, but now since I have used num equals to num minus 5, it is 48. Okay. Similarly, just as I was using plus equals to sign, I can use num minus equals to 5 sign over here, and this would just decrease my value. So earlier it was 53. Then I used num equals to num minus 5, so it became 48. Then I was using num minus equals to 5, so it became 43. It's as simple as that. Okay. Now, just as we have these plus equals to sign and negative equals to sign, we have multiplication equals to and division equals to sign also. So that you can try on your own and see how they work. So if I use, let's say I'll show it to you. If I use num asterisk sign equals to 5, then what will happen? It will multiply my num value by 5. I'll show you. So earlier it was 43. Now since I wrote num multiply equals to 5, so that means it is going to multiply my num value by 5. So whatever it was earlier, now I will get the new value as multiplied by 5. So earlier it was 43. Now when we have multiplied it by 5, it has become 215. Got it? So these are the few things that we needed to see. You can also see division equals to sign. Try to use it on your own. It is as simple as this only. Okay, once you use it, you will understand. Basically, if I use this, it will divide it by a particular value. Cool. Now our value is 215. And if I use increment operator, so let's say if I write num plus plus, so this will increase my number by 1. I do not need to write num plus equals to 1 this time. I can just write num plus plus and this would just increase it by 1. So my value is 215, right? So if I write console.log num, you can see 216 is here. Similarly, if I use it again, it will become 217. If I use it again, it will become 218 and so on and so forth. Now if I use num minus minus, it will decrease it. It was 218 and it had decreased by 1 and now it is 270. Okay. So yeah. Any doubts? Any questions in this?
So can we multiply it like num plus plus 6 like that?
No, you can't do that. It's just for increment and decrement purposes. You can just increase and decrease it. Anything else? Cool. Let's have a look at one more thing, and that is your modulus operator. So basically what modular operator does is it gives you the remainder. Okay, I'll show you an example. So let's say you have slices variable and its value is 10. Okay, and you have then a children variable which has a value of 3. Now you need to divide these slices, 10 slices, among 3 children. So what would you do? You would just make another variable amount and you would divide this, right? Slices divided by children, and if I console.log this amount, you will get the result as 3.333 and so on. Why? Because I'm dividing this 10 by 3. But when you actually divide 10 by 3, it gets divided, you get a remainder of 1, right? When you multiply 3 into 3, you get 9 and the 1 remains a remainder. That's what you can find with the help of a modular operator. What I would do, I would use amount to variable and I will write slices modulus operator, and I'll write children. Now if I write console.log amount to, you can see that 1 over here. And that's what this modulus operator is used for. These are some simple maths that I'm showing you. There is nothing fancy about this, obviously, but yeah, you need to know this. These are pretty basic things. Okay, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask. Okay, now let's play around with some variables and numbers. So let's say I create a number over here. Okay, I'll create a number 23, and I'll create a number 2, but let's make it a string. Okay, I'll give it 24. And if I try to add these, okay, one is a number and one is a string. So now if I try to add these, const value equals to number plus number 2. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? We have already seen this. String concatenation is going to happen, and it is going to make it 23, 24, because we are using plus sign and we are using a string. This number 2 is a string and we are using a plus sign. So string concatenation is going to happen. But at the same time, if I'm going to use a negative sign, now it doesn't know that this is a string concatenation. It doesn't even bother about it, right? So if we use negative sign, it will act as a number. So if I subtract number 2 from number right now, so basically 23 minus 24, it will give me negative of 1. Why? Because earlier my string concatenation was happening, but now they are getting subtracted from each other. Okay. Now what if I want to convert a string to a number? Can I do that? So yeah, you can do that as well. You just need to use something called parse int. If I use parse int, I can convert my string to a number. So earlier it was a string, but if you see, it's in blue in color now. So it's a number now. Okay, so let's say I create another variable, number 3, and I'll use parse int or parse float, parse int, and here I'll pass number 2. And now if I console.log number 3, you can see that 24, plus if I add this number plus number 3. So now it will not act as string concatenation, rather they both be added, which you can see over here. Okay, I hope this is very, very clear. You can just go ahead and play more around. Like you can create one more.
Sir, what is this parse int, sir?
Parse int is basically used to convert a string to a number. So if you have this 24 over here, but it's passed inside the string, right? So this is a string value right now, since it is passed inside quotes. So it's a string value.
Yeah.
Now when I use parse int, it will be converted to a number.
Okay.
Got it? And that is why I'm able to add this number 3 over here. Okay. Otherwise, there would have been just been string concatenation. Instead, we are able to add both of the numbers over here. Got it? Cool. Any other questions? Any other doubt? Okay, so I think we have seen enough for today, and we can wrap things up because we have already seen many things right now in the very first lecture. And if I proceed from here, I'll have to start a new topic. Okay, and I don't want you to burden with too many things. The code, the recording, everything you will get in your WhatsApp group. Okay, the recording you will only be able to access with the help of your registered email ID. So while registering whatever the email ID that you have filled over there in the details, you'll be able to access it with that only. So make sure that in your YouTube app on your mobile or on your browser, you're logged in with the current Gmail ID. Okay, so make sure of that. You'll get a portal link where you will have all the JavaScript notes, interview questions, cheat sheets, recordings, code of the class, everything there. Okay, so yeah, this is it for today. See you all tomorrow. Bye.
So just a moment.
Yeah, if you have any questions, I'll be here for a few more minutes. You
Yeah,
can go
can we
ahead and
just
ask.
visualize these things not in HTML like a website, nor like console? So
No, we'll see that while we do project. Currently, we with the console only. Okay.
okay,
Yeah, we have not seen things where we can print something on the screen right now.
okay,
We are currently in the basic phase where we'll see most of the things in the console only. Got it?
okay.
Yeah. If you have anything else to ask, I'll be here for 2 more minutes, so you can go ahead and ask those.